Hi everyone, I'm Sheriff Jim Fredericks, and I'm looking for your help to bring wanted persons to justice. The Sheriff's Office works hard to keep our community safe, and this is your chance to join me in locating people actively sought by law enforcement. So get ready, you're about to go around Anne Arundel County with me on the lookout. Hi, I'm Anne Arundel County Sheriff Jim Fredericks, and welcome to On the Lookout for December 2019. We have an episode full of subjects who have open warrants for addresses throughout Anne Arundel County, with charges ranging from failure to appear, or FTAs, all the way up to felonies. If you recognize a name or a face, call our warrant tip line at 410-LOOKOUT or 410-566-5688. All right, it's time to go on the lookout. From the northern area of the county, our first wanted subject is Aaron Michael Hatt. He's a 40-year-old Caucasian male, 6 foot, 225 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. He has 2 open warrants for escape and failing to appear for court. On August 27th, 2019, Aaron Hatt was committed to no bond house arrest pending trial in circuit court on charges of rape in the 2nd degree and assault in the 1st degree. Hatt left his residence on September 28th of 2019 and has failed to return home. He tampered with his GPS tracking device, so his whereabouts are unknown. A warrant for escape 2nd degree has been issued. He has an additional warrant for failing to appear for court on October 4th of 2019 for his prior rape in the 2nd degree charge and assault. Hatt's last known address is 408 Marley Station Road in Glen Burnie. Our next subject is DeAndre Holland. He's a 25-year-old African-American male, 5'11", 250 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He has an open warrant for 1st and 2nd degree assault and reckless endangerment. On February 19th of 2019, officers responded to Alley 17 and 11th Avenue East for the report of an assault. Upon arrival, they located the victim, who was lying unconscious. He had several knots on his face, a bloody nose, swollen eyes, and was covered in blood. Due to his condition, the victim was unable to tell officers what had happened. Detective Davis from the Northern District was able to locate a video of the incident. That video showed that the victim was riding his bike when 2 individuals approached the bike and he got off. These 2 individuals knocked him to the ground and began punching and kicking him. A few moments later, a vehicle pulled up and 2 other people exited. They also began punching and kicking the victim. One of them took the bike the victim had been riding and slammed it on his head. The victim had stopped moving and was unconscious. Detectives were able to identify Holland as one of the attackers through both the video surveillance and from a traffic stop that had been conducted near the scene of the attack. A warrant for assault 1st degree, 2nd degree, and reckless endangerment has been issued for DeAndre Holland's arrest. The next subject is Leyland Michelle Knuckles. She's a 17-year-old Caucasian female, 5'3", 110 pounds, with brown hair and hazel eyes. She has an open warrant for armed robbery, 1st degree assault, and theft. On October 8th of 2019, police responded to 1464 Ritchie Highway in Arnold for the report of an armed robbery. Officers spoke with the victim, who said he was driving a friend named Leyland Knuckles, and she asked him to pull over into a McDonald's parking lot so she could figure something out with a friend. After parking, the victim stated that the back door of his car opened and a male wearing a mask entered the car and held a gun to his head. The male demanded everything that he had. The victim said he didn't have any money and was hit in the head with the gun. During this time, Knuckles was telling the masked man that the victim had money and other things of value and where to find him in the vehicle. After taking money and property valued at about $600, the male and Leyland Knuckles exited the vehicle and fled on foot together. The victim pulled his car towards the highway in the direction they were fleeing, and the male raised the gun, pointed at the vehicle, and fired 2 shots. A warrant for armed robbery, assault in the first degree, and theft have been issued for Leyland Michelle Knuckles. Her last known address is 104 Packard Avenue in Glen Burnie. Our next subject is Sean Nathaniel Stewart. He's a 25-year-old African-American male, 5'6", 175 pounds, with brown hair and eyes. He has an open warrant for violating the terms of his probation. On September 27th of 2018, Stewart was convicted of CDS possession, not marijuana, and placed on supervised probation. In addition to the standard conditions of probation, Stewart was also given the conditions to successfully complete and pay for the cost for evaluation, testing, and treatment, and to totally abstain from alcohol, illegal substances, and abusive use of any prescription drug. Stewart was instructed to report to his supervising agent on December 6th of 2018 and has failed to report. Stewart did enroll for Suboxone treatment and provided verification for October and November of 2018, but has not verified any treatment since then. Stewart's supervising agent has been unable to conduct any urinalysis testing to verify that he has abstained from drugs and alcohol. A warrant for violation of probation has been issued for his arrest. Stewart's last known address is 5419 Wasena Avenue in Brooklyn. The next subject is Thomas Hillary Virts III. He's a 35-year-old Caucasian male, 5'10", 155 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. He has a warrant for violating the terms of his probation. On March 25th of 2011, Virts was found guilty of second-degree child abuse, and upon his release from incarceration was sentenced to 5 years of supervised probation. Virts has violated several terms of his probation. He's failed to report to his supervising agent as directed. He also had conditions of not illegally possessing, using, or selling any narcotic drug or controlled substance, to abstain from alcohol and abusive use of any prescription drugs, and to successfully complete drug treatment. On May 1st of 2017, information was received by Virts' probation agent that he had overdosed. Upon questioning, Virts admitted to opiate use. He was referred to Project Chesapeake for drug treatment and began treatment on May 12th of 2017. On June 8th of 2017, a report was received indicating that Virts was discharged from the program due to lack of attendance. A warrant for violation of probation has been issued for his arrest. Virts' last known address is 16 Chester Circle in Glen Burnie. Out of Eastern, our first subject is Cindy Lynn Jett. She's a 57-year-old Caucasian female, 5'4", 140 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. She has multiple open warrants, so let's get into the details. On June 18th of 2019, Jett was found guilty of CDS possession, not marijuana, and sentenced to probation. On September 6th of 2019, Jett was charged by police with CDS possession, not marijuana, violating the terms of her probation. Jett also failed to report to her probation officer since October 7th of 2019 and is not enrolled in substance abuse classes. Jett has 3 other outstanding warrants in Anne Arundel County for CDS possession, for theft and burglary and possession of paraphernalia. Her last known address is 7706 Queens Park Road in Pasadena. The next subject is Don Barry. He's a 62-year-old Caucasian male, 5'10", 180 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. He has a warrant for theft and for failing to perform a contract. A private citizen had filed a complaint against Barry, alleging that he was paid a total of $35,000 to install rock around the victim's pier. The victim stated that no work had been done, and it's also believed that the suspect never applied for the proper permits to even begin the contracted work. The victim attempted to contact Barry to request his money be returned with no success. Barry's last known address is 1635 Lakewood Road in Pasadena. Our next subject is Bethany Smith Barnett. She's a 55-year-old Caucasian female with blonde hair and blue eyes. Smith Barnett has a warrant for burglary, malicious destruction of property, and for trespassing. On February 6 of 2018, officers were dispatched to an address in Pasadena for a residential burglary. The property manager stated that Smith Barnett was evicted from the address on February 1st of 2018 and told not to return to the apartment per the court order. Additionally, locks were changed and the apartment was secured. Upon entry into the apartment, officers noticed multiple full, large black trash bags and noticed that the sliding glass door to the patio had been broken. The property managers also stated that several neighbors had seen Smith Barnett going into and from the apartment since the eviction had occurred. Her last known address is 8034 Abbey Court, Apartment F in Pasadena. The next subject is Eric Joseph Hayden. He's a 20-year-old Caucasian male, 5'9", 120 pounds, with black hair and hazel eyes. He has an open warrant for violating the terms of his probation. On September 6th of 2018, Hayden was found guilty of assault, second degree, and sentenced to abide by the terms of his probation, including reporting regularly to his probation officer, enrolling in and attending substance abuse classes, and abstaining from drugs and alcohol. Prior to the most recent violation of probation, Hayden had already been sanctioned twice by his probation officer for noncompliance. Per the report, Hayden was discharged from substance abuse classes on May 3rd for missing 4 consecutive group classes. He was then given special permission to return back on May 9th. However, Hayden failed to leave the required sample for urinalysis testing. As of this date, the probation officer has yet to be contacted by Hayden. His last known address is 8304 Daydream Crescent in Pasadena. Our next subject is Justin Gerbelski. He's a 25-year-old Caucasian male, 5'10", 145 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. He has an open warrant for violating the terms of his probation. On February 10th of 2014, Gerbelski was found guilty of child pornography, distribution with intent and possession of child pornography, and he was sentenced to 3 years of supervised probation. Gerbelski was found in violation of the terms of his probation on September 21st of 2015 and was advised to continue following the initial terms of his probation. On August 10th of 2016, Gerbelski was instructed to report to his probation officer on August 17th of 2016. However, Gerbelski called and advised he was in the hospital. His probation officer requested he provide proof. However, that was never received. Gerbelski has not communicated with his probation officer since August of 2016. On September 10th of 2016, Gerbelski picked up new charges in Baltimore County for theft between $10,000 and $100,000, theft between $1,000 and $10,000, and use and disclosure of credit card numbers. His last known address is 7881 Mansion House Crossing in Pasadena. From the southern area of the county, our first subject is Kimberly Michelle Ayers. She's a 37-year-old Caucasian female, 5'4", 160 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. Ayers has a warrant for theft and theft scheme. On October 23rd of 2019, officers responded to a business in reference to a theft and embezzlement complaint call. An internal audit at Ayers' place of employment revealed that Ayers had been changing her hourly rate and also giving herself bonuses and overtime to increase her salary. She had also written checks to herself during her 3 months of employment and used the company credit card to pay her personal bills. The total loss to the company is approximately $9,700, with the thefts occurring between July and October of 2019. Ayers' last known address is 8021 Quarterfield Road in Severn. The next subject is Vernon Anderson. He's a 61-year-old Caucasian male, 5'10", 185 pounds, with brown hair. Anderson has warrants for theft scheme, theft, and embezzlement and misappropriation. Anderson is accused of misusing his fiduciary responsibility as a power of attorney over his mother, who lives in a nursing home and has dementia. Vernon is alleged to have wired funds from his mother's accounts into his business and personal accounts to the sum of roughly $82,500. His last known address is 1580 Ritchie Drive in Edgewater. Our next subject is Brad Antonio Gow. He's a 30-year-old African-American male, 6 foot 160 pounds, black hair and brown eyes. He has a warrant for sex offense and assault. On March 26th of 2018, the Anne Arundel County Department of Social Services contacted police in reference to a child sex offense. It was alleged that Gow was dating the juvenile victim's older sister and would visit their residence often, though he did not live there. The victim claims she was sexually assaulted by Gow on multiple occasions when the older sister he was dating was not home. The abuse took place between January 2014 to December 2015, when the victim was approximately 10 years old. Gow's last known address is 107 Boxwood Road in Annapolis. The next subject is Levi Jonathan Rosales. He's a 41-year-old Hispanic male, 5'6", 280 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Rosales has an open warrant for theft. On March 28th of 2019, Rosales dropped off a pressure washer to be repaired at a business in Linthicum Heights. The repairs were completed as of April 1st of 2019. However, Rosales did not return to pick up the item until July 24th of 2019. A $500 storage fee should have been assessed to Rosales, however, the business owner decided to waive the fee. At the time of payment, Rosales wrote a check for the repair, and additional items were purchased, totaling over $2,800. On August 5th, the shop owner was notified, of course, that the check had bounced. He reached out to Rosales on several occasions, however, none of his attempts have been answered. Rosales' last known address is 4435 Indigo Lane in Harwood. Our next subject is Pedro Unseld Nguyen. He's a 36-year-old African-American male, 5'8", 185 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He has warrants for violating the terms of his probation and for failing to appear for court. On November 24th of 2018, Nguyen was charged with motor vehicle unlawful taking, theft between $100 and $1,500, stealing another's credit card, and a charge larger than $100 and false statement to police officers. During his initial appearance before the court, Nguyen was released on his own recognizance and ordered to abide by the terms of pretrial conditions pending his trial date. On March 21st of 2019, a violation report was filed and a warrant was issued. Nguyen also failed to appear for his theft between $100 and $1,500 and disorderly conduct case on April 26th of 2019 and now has a warrant for that. Out of West County, our first subject is Carl Anthony Bean Jr. He's a 21-year-old African-American male, 6 foot, 225 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He has an open warrant for armed robbery, assault, and theft. On October 6 of 2019, officers responded to 322 Clag Court in Glen Burnie for the report of a robbery. They made contact with the victim, who stated he was there to meet up with 2 girls he knew from school when he was robbed by 3 males at gunpoint. Items taken valued approximately $1,500. The victim believed the girls were involved based on their remarks during the robbery. During an investigative traffic stop in the area of the robbery, officers located the 2 females the victim had met up with in a vehicle with 2 males. One of the male occupants of that vehicle was identified as Carl Anthony Bean Jr., and the females were transported back to Eastern District for processing. During interviews, both gave consent to a search of their phones. The search of the phones showed a clear conversation via text messaging that both females had communicated with the male subjects who had committed the robbery. A follow-up interview was conducted, at which time one of the females admitted she knew the robbery was going to happen and identified the 2 males who had committed it. One of the men was identified as Carl Anthony Bean Jr. A warrant for armed robbery, assault in second degree, and theft has been issued for Bean. His last known address is 978 Sunny Court in Gambrels. The next subject is Samuel D. Kuhn. He's a 36-year-old African-American male, 5'8", 100 pounds, with brown hair and eyes. Kuhn has an open warrant for violating the terms of his probation. On March 13th of 2006, Samuel Kuhn was convicted of first-degree assault and was sentenced to 6 months incarceration and 5 years supervised probation. Upon release from detention, Kuhn was directed to report to his supervising agent at parole and probation by April 19th of 2007. He failed to report on the scheduled date or any time thereafter. His supervising agent conducted a home visit and determined that Kuhn was no longer living at the address he had provided. Kuhn also failed to make any restitution payments. A warrant for violation of probation has been issued for his arrest. His last known address is 722 Chapel View Drive in Odenton. Our next subject is Keon Lamont Martin. He's a 22-year-old African-American male, 5'10", 180 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Martin has an open warrant for violating the terms of his probation. On January 1st of 2018, Keon Martin was convicted of robbery and assault in the second degree and sentenced to 3 years probation to start on November 12th of 2018, after his release from detention. Martin has violated several conditions of his probation. He stopped reporting to parole and probation on July 3rd of 2019. His agent did make telephone contact with him, but Martin refused to report as directed. Martin tested positive for oxycodone, marijuana, and alcohol. He was ordered to attend and successfully complete substance abuse treatment and enroll in abuser intervention programming, and Martin has failed to do so. His last known address is 8351 Pioneer Drive in Severn. The next subject is Sandra L. Krenzer. She's a 45-year-old Caucasian female, 5'5", 130 pounds, with blonde hair and brown eyes. Krenzer has an open warrant for violating the terms of her probation. Krenzer was placed on 3-year supervised probation on May 5th of 2013 after being convicted of conspiracy to distribute heroin. Part of her probation conditions are to complete community service. She's failed to report to complete community service on several occasions. Krenzer was also ordered to attend and successfully complete drug treatment. She was discharged from 2 different facilities due to her continued drug use. Because Krenzer has failed to meet several conditions of her probation, a warrant for violation of probation has been issued for her arrest. Her last known address is 1317 Burlington Drive in Odenton. Our next subject is Zorema Lorenzana. She's a 30-year-old Caucasian female, 5'1", 117 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Lorenzana has an open warrant for violating a protective order, malicious destruction of property, and assault. On October 10th of 2019, police received a report of a domestic violence situation on Golden Eagle Lane in Severn. Upon arrival, officers met with a male subject who stated he had a protective order in place against Lorenzana. He told officers Lorenzana had come to his home uninvited and used a key to enter the residence. He also stated that a verbal argument occurred which led to a physical altercation. He advised that Lorenzana slapped him several times in the face, broke his glasses, threw shoes at him, and threatened him with a pair of scissors. Lorenzana was no longer at the residence when officers arrived. A warrant for violating a protective order, malicious destruction of property, and second-degree assault has been issued for her arrest. Her last known address is 426 Pamela Road, Unit C in Glen Burnie. All right, it's bonus segment time. Here are a few subjects wanted for failing to pay their court-ordered child support. Our first subject is Heather Dawn Abrams. She's a 36-year-old Caucasian female, 5'6", 130 pounds, with brown hair and hazel eyes. She's wanted for failing to appear for court and failing to pay her court-ordered child support. Abrams' current bond amount is $10,000. Her last known address is 367 Alameda Parkway in Arnold. The next subject is Charles W. Anderson. He's a 54-year-old Caucasian male, 6 foot 195 pounds, with gray hair and hazel eyes. He is wanted for failing to appear for court and failing to pay his court-ordered child support. Anderson's current bond amount is $5,000, and his last known address is 7984 West Riverside Drive in Pasadena. Next up is Michelle M. Andrews. She's a 44-year-old Caucasian female, 5'7", 117 pounds, with brown hair and hazel eyes. Andrews is wanted for failing to appear for court and for failing to pay her court-ordered child support. She has a bond amount of $15,000. Her last known address is 300 North Pulaski Highway in Baltimore. Our next subject is Ryan Darby Foote. He's a 45-year-old African-American male, 5'6", 150 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Foote is wanted for failing to appear for court and for failing to pay his court-ordered child support. His current bond is $10,000. Foote's last known address is 3600 Laurel Fort Meade Road in Laurel. Next up subject is Rizan Danya McGowan. He's a 28-year-old African-American male, 5'10", 150 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He too is wanted for failing to appear for court and for failing to pay his court-ordered child support. Mr. McGowan's current bond amount is $7,500. His last known address is 2012 Forest Drive in Annapolis. Next up is James Otis Lowe III. He's a 38-year-old African-American male, 6'4", 178 pounds, with brown hair and green eyes. He is wanted for failing to appear for court and failing to pay his court-ordered child support. Mr. Lowe's current bond amount is $10,000. His last known address is 3305 Hamilton Avenue in Baltimore. Our next subject is Carl Earl Victor Jr. He's a 39-year-old African-American male, 5'7", 170 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He too is wanted for failing to appear for court and for failing to pay his court-ordered child support. Mr. Victor's current bond amount is $20,000. His last known address is 9130 Edmonston Court in Greenbelt. The next subject is Carrie Lynn Vanden. She's a 34-year-old Caucasian female, 5'7", 130 pounds, brown hair and hazel eyes. She is wanted for failing to appear for court and for also failing to pay her court-ordered child support. Vanden's current bond amount is $9,000. Her last known address is 621 Biscay Avenue in Brooklyn Park. Before closing out the show this month, I want to thank you for watching and for those callers who have provided tips about the subjects we have previously highlighted. If you have contact with or know the whereabouts of any of the individuals covered today or others you think have unserved warrants, please call the warrant tip line at 410-LOOKOUT or 410-566-5688. I'm Sheriff Jim Fredericks, and I'll see you next month on the lookout.